Good morning and welcome to the JMCSS podcast for the district. I'm Greg Hammond, Chief of Public Information for the Jackson-Madison County School System. Today, we'll visit with Ramonica Dorsey, principal of JCM High School, and Jacorey Garrett, a JCM sophomore, who's aiming to improve the lives of people in our community through service. He has a very special story that you will want to stick around and hear. We'll also visit with members of our transportation and safety teams as our bus drivers are logging more than 12,000 miles daily to get more than 9,000 students to and from school safely. For the district, the JMCSS podcast is a production of the Jackson-Madison County School System in partnership with Forever Communications. You can listen to this episode on demand on Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite show. Principal Dorsey, welcome to For the District.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
And Jacorey is a sophomore. Jacorey Garrett is a sophomore at JCM. Welcome, Jacorey.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now, following the script that we always use, this is the first question. Typically, when I remember to do it right, my producer's shaking his head, yes. Principal Dorsey, did you know when you graduated from JCM that you wanted to work in education?
No, I did not. When I graduated, I was going to school to be a nurse. My uncle, who's now deceased, he was like, just be a nurse, because I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I knew I wanted to go to a HBCU, and I knew I wanted to leave Jackson, because I'm from Jackson, went to JCM class of 92.
Whoop, whoop.
So this is my opportunity to leave Jackson. So I looked up HBCUs and who had a great nursing program at Southern University, A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the Jaguars. So they had a phenomenal nursing program with great success rate. So I majored. I went to Southern, didn't know anybody, left and went to Louisiana. Mom dropped me off.
Welcome to the real world at that point.
Yes, absolutely. It's getting real now. So I was in my first chemistry class, and I was like, what is this? And then I was like, I don't even really like blood. I can't wear scrubs every day. So I just started reflecting, and then I was like, this nursing is not going to be for me. I'm going to change my major. Didn't know what to. So then I started had work study in a school on campus, K through 12 school. And I started volunteering there, and I ended up loving the students. And so I ended up changing my major to elementary ed, K-8. So,
what do you love most about your job that the average person just doesn't see or know about?
Actually, I just love changing the lives or molding the lives of students, knowing that I'm in charge of their future and knowing that accountability lies on me. And I'm okay with that because I have high expectations for all of my students. I know that they can do it, but it's up to us, to my teachers, my faculty and staff, to believe in them and knowing that they can break some of those generational challenges. We are a Title I school. What a lot of students will be first-time graduates of high school, probably graduates of college. And that weighs heavy on me, knowing that I have the opportunity to guide their future, so they make sure that when they leave me or leave JCM High School, that they are college or career ready.
We're visiting with Ramonica Dorsey. She's the principal of JCM High School. Principal Dorsey, what's the takeaway there, however? Someone who's very successful in their craft, when you look back, you didn't actually know coming out of high school what you wanted to do, but you are now where you're supposed to be. So as you talk to some of your students, as they're preparing for entering 11th grade or entering college and career, what advice do you give some of those students?
The advice that I try to give my students, especially my senior, this will be our first graduating class. So we are very, very excited to
And let's say that again, when you think about restoring the roar, this is the first graduating class for JCM since, I guess, would it
since
be
2016.
2016? Okay,
When,
so the advice.
So my advice would is always just to do what you love to do. And I just go back to the nursing piece of it, or what I was starting to major in. I said I wouldn't be happy. So my advice to them is, when we have conversations, think about what's going to get you up in the morning, that's going to get you excited to be there, because you don't want to be miserable and have a job where you hate to go to. So that's something that I have to give them that advice, because I'm this gets me up in the morning. I love what I do, and I'm happy to get up in the morning to go to work, and that's what I want them to do, because a lot of them still don't know what they want to do, and that's fine. I told them that's okay. It'll get better. You'll find out what you want to do, what you like, what are your hobbies, something that you can see yourself doing forever, and it'll come. But you want to make sure that you choose a career or a job where you're going to be happy each and every day, because you're going to do your best at whatever job that you have if you are happy in that area.
And we'll get into some of the programs that are currently on the JCM campus that gives students exposure to different career fields. We'll get into that in a moment. But I do want to ask, what is this, a year and a half now you've been on the new campus, or the renovated campus,
Yes.
a multi-million-dollar renovation?
Yes.
What's it been like? And I'll ask you, and then Jacorey, Garrett, the student, you can give the student perspective. But first, Principal Dorsey, what's it been like to be back home for this year?
It's amazing. A lot has changed. Alumni has been wonderful. They have reached out. Mary High, JCM alum. We always have our tailgate each year. So they come, we have an open house so they can come back and just to hear the conversations, and they reminisce on where the library used to be. And we used to hang out right here in this hallway, in the cafeteria. So just looking at and listening to the history and we are restoring the roar, and just knowing that we're building, and we're still in that phase. We're in, like, I think about, like, when you're building a house, you have the foundation, the slab, and you have the bricks, and then that's phase one when you move in. Phase two is now you got to decorate every room in the house. Yeah. You can't have an empty house. So we've moved in, but however, the decoration are the students, and making sure that we are planning those individual students to make sure that they are college and career ready when they leave us.
Jacorey Garrett is a sophomore at JCM. He's also a student council representative. Yes, you're a vice president. So think back, the first year JCM reopened, you guys were splitting time between Oman and North Parkway, I think. Now you've had a year on the JCM campus. What has it been like for you, Jacorey?
Well, as we started in the Omen, I was like, oh my gosh, this is about to be a school year.
But it all worked out.
It was.
Yes,
It was.
So when we went to JCM, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. We had glass windows like everywhere. We had time clocks. Cougar was everywhere. Oh my gosh. So as a part of the student council, I had to tour some of the alumni. I'm over here telling them, like, what is this and what is that? But then they're saying, oh, this used to be the old gym. I'm like, oh, for real?
So they're teaching you.
They're teaching me while I'm teaching them.
Very cool.
So I was just amazed on how, because it looked a little dingy at first before it got renovated, but then as it started getting built, I started to see the progress and the potential we had there.
I think one of the favorite areas for alumni and people who just go by is that grand entrance that you have now.
The grand foyer.
The grand foyer.
And that's where we're going to have our prom this year, our first prom. So we're going to outfit the grand foyer for our prom, for our senior class this year.
And I know a lot of your banquets are held there. A lot of
we have our football banquets there, and then alumni, they want to gather there and have different gatherings. So the outpour and just walking down, it's like walking down memory lane. Yeah. It's like a timeline from Mary High all the way up.
Literally on the wall.
On the walls, and actually my class is up there as well. I'm not on the wall, which is fine. But it's just looking back at the different phases of where we were and where we are now, and it's just breathtaking.
We're looking at the clock. It's time for a timeout. We will tell you when we return. Jacorey will tell us about his service project with the American Heart Association. It's a story that you'll want to hear next. You're listening to For the District, the JMCSS podcast. We're visiting with Principal Ramonica Dorsey and the JCM Cougars. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Tadpole, host of the Morning Splash on Froggy 104, and a proud JMCSS parent. My wife and I chose Jackson Madison County Schools for our kids. Brooklyn is an honor roll student who has found an aptitude for art and is also a member of her school choir. And the twins are getting excellent instruction in pre-K and learning valuable social skills. The kids love their schools and their teachers, and we are very proud to be JMCSS parents. Jackson Madison County School System is a Level 5 district and tuition free. It just makes sense.
Hi, I'm Greg Hammond, Chief of Public Information for the Jackson Madison County School System. With an increased focus in the fine arts, athletics, workforce development, and early career opportunities for students, there's never been a better time to choose us. Tuition-free Jackson Madison County Schools. Visit jmcss.org today to schedule a tour or call 731-345-7011.
Hello, I'm Camden Womack, a star student at Arlington Elementary, and you're watching For the District. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to the JMCSS podcast for the district. We are visiting with the JCM Cougars as the high school restores the roar. We're visiting with JCM principal Ramonica Dorsey, and we're all feeling much better. The air is on now. I'm back in Pensacola on the beach. Actually, I'm in studio with my new friends, Principal Dorsey, and a sophomore from JCM High School, Jacorey Garrett. Jacorey, before we get to you, I do want to ask Principal Dorsey, talking about the importance of these programs that introduce students to different career fields. Something that's special to JCM is the dance program. Talk a moment about Miss Beard and the dance program at JCM High School.
Okay, so once I was announced as being principal of JCM, we started planning. We had a planning committee, Mr. Baker, my assistant principal, Dr. Breeden, middle school principal, JCM middle school principal, just started thinking outside the box because it is in the 2000s, students change over time, and just trying to think about different creative ways that they can show their talents. And I wanted dance, and everybody was questioning, like my mom was, and Dr. King as well, was like, what do you mean dance? I was like, I want us to have a dance class. So they can be exposed to that because our students love music, they love dancing. So just to be able to have another idea and entity of the fine arts program instead of just art and choir. So let's add dance to this. And so we only had one dance teacher in the district that had majored in dance, and she was at North Parkway, and that's Miss Nadia Beard, and she has been a phenomenal asset to JCM High School and middle school. So the students, they sign up for dance. She's taking them to see Alvin Ailey. She's exposing them to the history of dance, the different genres of dance, of the music, and the cultures back in the day. The African dance, just different ways that they can express themselves in dance. So, and just exposing them outside of Jackson so they can be able to see other dancers as well, and so they can be able to probably use that art in the future, in their future college experience. They may go to college, you want to be a dancer, who knows? But we just want to make sure that they are exposed to those different opportunities.
We're visiting with Ramonica Dorsey. She's principal at JCM High School. And you talk about Miss Beard. Really, the JCM brand was on display this summer as Miss Beard was really the principal director for the Wiz this summer in downtown Jackson.
Yes, and that was phenomenal that she put that on your son was in it.
Yeah, both of my kids were in it.
So he did a phenomenal job. So she and the Fine Arts Committee, they worked really, really well together as a team. For our Black History program in February, they planned everything. And it was a phenomenal program. Our choir performed. Our theater, they had created poems and had like poetry or art. They had different Black art that they designed. It was a phenomenal, best Black History program ever. And I was a little nervous because I'm always kind of in control of things. And
you got to give it away a little bit.
So I had to release. And Ms. Beard was like, Ms. Dorsey, I got you. Like I said, I don't know what y'all doing. I hadn't even seen anything, the practices or anything. So she was like, just trust me. I said, okay. So basically when I came in the program, that was my first time actually seeing it, and I was blown away. And I just hats off to the whole Fine Arts committee. And our students, they have so many talents. And I'm just proud that they are being able to share their talents and expose them to different opportunities in arts.
We're visiting with Ramonica Dorsey. She's principal of JCM High School. And Jacorey Garrett is in the studio with us. He's a sophomore at JCM. He's also a representative on the student council. Now, Jacorey, you're also involved in choir, is that correct?
Yes, sir, and band.
Choir and band. What's it been like for you to be in the fine arts there at JCM?
Oh, it's been amazing. We have so many not talents, but places we like, perform, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you do have many talents. We've been able to see many of the content on social media. It's been fun to watch. Now, Jacorey, your real passion is service. And so following JCM on social media, which, by the way, if you don't follow JCM on social media, we want to encourage you to do that. I follow JCM on Twitter and Facebook. A tweet I saw the other day was about Jacorey's service project. It's related to the American Heart Association. Principal Dorsey, if you would, just kind of introduce this. I know Jacorey is going to read some of his application that he turned in order to do this fundraiser, but if you would kind of introduce his story for us.
Okay, well, we received an email from the Lifeline, the Heart Association, and they brought over a kit. We were chosen, JCM, to be able to do to have a CPR kit. They chose in high school, so they came over. Walmart Corporation, the lady who's over the heart, I can't think of her name right now, but they came over, presented that, and then she said, well, you need a representative to represent for the Heart Association for the Teen Impact. I said, okay, so what student, because we always have to choose different students, so we want to make sure that they be choosing one that fits that category because we want them to be able to make sure that they're going to do a great job in that area. So when she said choose someone, I thought about Jacorey. I said, Miss Reeves, our graduation coach, she's phenomenal as well. I said, so let's think, look, so what do you think? I said, what about Jacorey? She said, I think that would be perfect because Jacorey last year had a hard year. He lost his mom to a heart attack. And I thought about him because after that incident, he always talked to us about being a cardiologist. And and she said, choose a student, he automatically came to mind, and Miss Reeves co-signed. And then when he came to school the next day, we mentioned it to him. I said, you have been chosen. Would you accept? He was like, oh, absolutely. And that's one thing about Jacorey. He always wants to accept those challenges, and he never says no. He's a leader of the building. He's on student council. He's the vice president. He ran. Actually, it was a close race. He was like talking a little stuff, it's my first time seeing him in that light. But he wanted his spot. He was a freshman vice president last year, so he didn't want nobody gonna take his spot. So he won again. So we were very proud of him for that because he wants and it's good to see students that want to see JCM excel to get back to when I was there, because when I was there we were like the kids say lit. We were lit. JCM was the thing back in the day. The band was phenomenal. We were known, every football, basketball, everybody knew that when JCM comes to play, we're coming to win. And so the rebuilding phase that we're in that process of getting back to that spot.
Jacorey, if you would for a moment, would you read a statement from your application for this fundraiser with the American Heart Association?
Yes, sir. So the reason I am interested in your program is because ever since my mom was diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, I have always wanted to become a cardiologist. I could see the pain my mom was going through, and I couldn't help her when she passed last year. It made my desire to become a cardiologist even more intense. I want to ease the pain of those plagued with heart disease because watching what it does to young people from a young age has had a big impact on my life. I believe that this program could not only help people, but also be a stepping stone to my future.
That's awesome. Jacorey, what's it been like to see folks like your principal and your classmates rally around you for the last year to help support you through what's been a difficult time?
Well, it gave me motivation. I was in a dark place. I Oh, it was just so hard. But having Miss Reeves there, having my math teacher Miss Shaw, she helped me a lot through the process, because she lost her mom too, and she let me come in her classes during lunch because I didn't even want to eat like with people at the time.
Miss Dorsey, as principal of JCM, again, when people think about schools, they think about homework, they think about test scores. When you listen to Jacorey's story and he names these people who have supported him through a rough time, it reminds you that school is so much more than just a
Absolutely.
place that you learn.
Absolutely.
Can you kind of put into words when you have a situation like this? And folks may not see it as a responsibility. Of course, Dr. King calls it a calling. Can you talk about how this is a part of an educator's calling to support students?
Absolutely, because you have to look at the whole child. It's not about academics. At the end of the day, yeah, test scores, they are important. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that our students are good, mentally, physically, socially, and take the time to be able to talk to them. And that's one thing about JCM High School. Our teachers are there to be able to support them. They can come to we have an open door policy, and our teachers are there to listen. And if they're having a bad day, take a minute. And at the beginning of each day, they do temperature checks, like they at the threshold, they're standing there like good morning, greeting their students, and that's something that and you can notice when somebody is off that morning, and we pull them to the side. Everything's good. You okay? You need a minute, and we have our little Cougars Den, which is like a little chill spot in our building with the windows, and we have tables and chairs, and we have the grand foyer with the benches, and they can sit there for a minute if they need a timeout, and that's okay because academics are important, but if you're not mentally there, you can teach algebra all day long or read a story, Fahrenheit, the story they're on in English 1. But if you're not mentally there, so we have to stop thinking about the academics piece at that time and think about the well-being of that student and see if they need any help or assistance, and that's what we're there for.
Jacorey, I know no one knows the future, but as I listen to your story and I think about Principal Dorsey talks about what's around the campus there, and I'm reminded that there are murals on the wall of different successful alumni. Jacorey, what's your path to one day being on that wall?
Well, I plan on going to college. I don't know what college I want to go to right now. I'm looking at MTSU, but my path, I believe I want to explore first before I go to college, because I want to see if it's something else out there.
Right.
So you want to take a gap year?
Right.
Okay.
Now, after this commercial break, I know there's some things that you all have lined up for Jacorey and other students to kind of get experience in some of these career fields before graduation so they can make great decisions. We're going to talk about that in a moment. First, we want to tell you about our transportation team. Our transportation team is running 71 buses daily. Our bus drivers provide transportation for more than 9,000 students. That's K through 12. So Principal Dorsey and her staff take care of them, but it's our transportation's job to get them there. They cover 12,000 miles daily to get all those routes done. Several drivers in the Jackson-Madison County School System have been with us for many years. Let's hear from James Avery. He's a bus driver with JMCSS and has been with us for a decade.
I was with Toys R Us for about 12 years as a store director. I call myself technically semi-retired, but yeah, this is just something to do. Kind of get a little money, get out of the house. It still gives me, the time off to do vacations and trips, things like that. I was looking to make a career change, and my wife played tennis with someone that actually was a bus driver, and suggested that to me. Talked to her, and decided to give it a try. The Northeast football teams, Northeast basketball, Northside cheerleaders, Northside soccer, and a few others occasionally. But those are the ones I pretty much do all their trips. I enjoy it, in particular the schedule. Gives me flexibility. I can do my morning route, go play 9 holes of golf, come back, do the afternoon route, and not be crunched for time. So it works out real well. Typically, I'll get up 5 o'clock in the morning, get up to the bus somewhere between 5:45, 6 o'clock. My route starts a little bit later than some of the others. And then I'll be done in the mornings between 8:45 and 9. I'll go back to the bus about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Welcome back to the JMCSS podcast for the district. This is the podcast where we visit with employees and students in the Jackson-Madison County school system. This is episode 24. Let me check my notes again. Episode 24, we're visiting with the JCM Cougars. That's JCM High School. Principal Ramonica Dorsey. You may remember last week we visited with JCM Early College High, which really kept the JCM brand alive during those years. JCM had been closed, but JCM High School is back opened, and not only is the high school open, there's a middle school, and so they are definitely doing the work in restoring the roar. We're also visiting with Jacorey Garrett. He's a sophomore at JCM High School. And Principal Dorsey, I know Jacorey is interested in the health field. We heard about his story. If you didn't hear the last segment, we want to encourage you to check out the JMCSS podcast. You can check it out on Spotify or just go to jmcss.org/podcast to listen. So Jacorey is interested in the health field, particularly cardiology. And I know the alumni base at JCM is large because you have several graduates going back several years. What are some things that you all are doing for Jacorey and others to give them opportunities for job shadowing and different programs outside of the school?
Well, we just had a successful college and career fair. This is we had one last year, and Ms. Reeves, our graduation coach, did a phenomenal job again, putting that on. So we had different local businesses coming out, and they were able to meet so they can be able to see exactly what path they want to go on and go in. We also have loop opportunities. Actually, today they're doing loop interviews so they can work at West Tennessee Healthcare for next semester, our seniors for next year. So they're doing those today. We have West Tennessee Healthcare. JEA is involved now. We have Black and Decker, and that's something that they're getting exposed to. And we have a lot of seniors now coming back and we're saying, this factory life is really not for me. I said, well, good. At least you experienced it, and now you know that that's not the path that you want to go in. This good money. Then they said it's good money, but we just want them to have that exposure and experiences, because if they don't have them, they never know what else is out there and if they like it or not. And we don't want them to be stuck somewhere and just be miserable. Like we always talk about, you want to be happy in whatever career that you choose to do.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
Yeah. But I think about Loop and West Tennessee Healthcare, certainly for a student like Jacorey, that would be an opportunity. And speaking with not only our directors and internally for Loop, but also representatives from West Tennessee Healthcare, and how Loop opens doors. And a lot of times those initial opportunities for students would be food service or environmental, but if you stay around, there's opportunity for scholarships and different.
And we do have different alumni that gives back, and they want to help out and assist as needed, because they want JCM to strive. Like I say, back in our days, we were at the top. We were at the top. We were number one, and they're going to support us to get back to that number one spot. So we do have alumni that's in the healthcare field, and we're setting up internships. I know Nathan Pride, the attorney, judge, he stopped by and was like, you have anybody interested in being an attorney?
Oh, wow.
They can do internships with him. So they have just the outpour of like they have their class reunions, and they come out and say, what do you need? You know, it's just been phenomenal support all around, and they want our students to succeed and be able to help out as needed, not just financially, but actually spending the time coming up to be able to spend that time with our students. And Miss Duventry, Agnes, she's a retired teacher, and she's been volunteering for the last month at JCM. She was just there the other day, just helping out. And what can I do to assist? And so we've been giving her computer carts to fill up with computers and things like that. And so, y'all worked me today. You asked to volunteer. So but her class, I think her 50th or is coming up in August. So they are really, the outpour and the love that they have shown since we've opened has just been phenomenal.
And Jacorey, not to bore you with these old timer tales, but when she mentions the past, two things I think about. When you think about academic decathlon, you know, in the past, that was at JCM. And so, and then particularly in sports, growing up in South Jackson, two teams you did not want to see step off the bus. JCM and Haywood.
That's right.
You did not
That's
want to see them
right.
stepping off the bus. And
That's
so when you think about that mental edge, that reputation,
Mm-hmm.
and when you talk about restoring the roar, it is a very real thing. And so
And
JC
greatness don't happen overnight.
it doesn't.
Like
No,
I
but
said,
you guys are certainly doing the work.
Absolutely. We're doing the work. We're working hard. It's a team effort. I can't do it by myself. Mr. Baker, our assistant principal, the counselors, our faculty and staff, they have the coaches. Everybody is coming together to make sure we get it, we bring it back. And we're working hard to get there. But check us out in the next few years. We're gonna be there. Our band is gonna be top notch like it used to be. We think we only have about 20 members, probably 15 to 20.
Which instruments are you interested in, Jacorey?
I'm playing the baritone.
Very cool.
Baritone. So, and our goal is to have like a little mini HBCU band, like the drum line and all of that. So we're working hard to just bring everything back and just upgrading it to what it is now in the 2023s.
And it's cool to see our high schools because in a very supportive way, you all try to outdo each other. And so when you all had
Very
your
competitive.
parade, I know everyone else was thinking, wait a minute, why didn't we think of that? And that was the very fun time.
And that's
your
something that my
homecoming parade.
staff always, like I said, guys, I just think of different things. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. They be like, okay, here she go again. And what she want to do now? I'm like, just listen, because I really want to have an Easter egg hunt tomorrow for the kids. I really did. They just like children, but they was like, no. So I think of different things. I said, we're gonna have a parade. It was like, oh my God. So then his class, I think y'all were the winner, weren't you? They had
The class of
2025.
2025.
They won the float contest, so they had a theme, and then every class had to design a float. Shout out to Dr. Reeves at Arlington and Shannon Davis at Alexander. They brought their students over to participate because those are feeder schools. So they came over as well, had their little trailer with their floats as well and their students. And it was just they was like, how y'all get a chance to just shut down streets? I said,
But that is what happened.
That's what we do. We shut down streets. We're going to have us a parade.
It was very
nice.
nice.
So next year it's going to be bigger and better.
Real quick, watching the clock here, a word about your digital arts program in music production, because when you think about things that makes JCM unique, I immediately think about your dance program because no one else in high school and our public schools has that.
Right.
And then your digital arts program. Talk about the music program there at JCM.
So that's something I wanted to have as well. I talked about dance, and I said, what about song? Because our students love to write songs, rap, dance, and all of that. And so it's a digital audio production program. That's one that we go through our innovation team, Dr. McSweeney and Molly. We met about it. We hired Mr. Byron Cheney. He's phenomenal, very creative, very smart in production, and that's another avenue that students can be able to major in as well.
And he's one of those teachers who has that real world experience.
Because that's what he does.
And he's bringing it back to the campus.
Yes, so he's involved in different shows with different celebrities. I think he had a Fantasia and some more people last weekend. He had to fly out for Super Bowl. He had some performances he had to do production for, but I think it got canceled, what have you. So he's teaching them because when you go to concerts and different things, look at the background is more important. You got to have sound. You have to have everything hooked, the speakers and the microphones and everything. Make sure that's working. And nobody thinks about that piece of the concert. But that's what he does, and he wants. And so our students are learning, and they're getting licensures as well to be able to have when they graduate, so they can be able to work in production. So it's not about. And then we also have it's like a little mini studio, so they can make their own beats, they can make their own sounds, and also they created our chant, our Cougar chant that we have as well that we play at our games.
You're smiling, Jacorey.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me this chant now, or you want to tell it to me later?
So we was like, at first we was coming up with it in Ms. Dorsey's office. All the student council members, we was like,
they met in my office.
what can we do?
Some little slogans and they did.
So we all started just making beats on the table. Then Ms. Dorsey was like, what if he said put cougars in it? So it's like, okay, what if we spill it out? And we was like, okay.
Because they needed some help. So I was there too.
From the old school.
Yes, they were struggling. They were like struggling, like y'all supposed to be helping me. So yeah.
Go ahead, Jacorey.
So we started coming up with it. We was like, okay, so we're going to spell it out. So it's like Cougars, you know them cookers don't take no mess. Cougars, you know them cookers don't take no mess. Big Central I, Big Central I, Big Central I.
Very good. You heard it here first.
Yes.
If you didn't already hear it during basketball season, we've been visiting with Principal Ramonica Dorsey from JCM High School and Jacorey Garrett. He's a sophomore and a representative of the student government there at JCM. Thank you so much for your time. Principal Dorsey, thank you for what you're doing, not just at the school, but in the community.
Thank you.
Because as Jacorey's story highlights, our schools are so much more than just education.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to the JMCSS podcast for the district. We want to remind you, you can check out this episode and previous episodes online, on demand, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I'm Greg Hammond saying thank you for joining us this Sunday morning, and we hope you have a great week.